We continue now at the top of Daf Tzadi Beis Amid Aleph and Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 92a. This daf is sponsored by David Grossman. Thank you for your sponsorship. If you would like to sponsor an Amid or a Daf, see the description box below. And see the description box below to see how you can support this channel. The Mishnah begins, Hamocher Peiros Lechaver. If somebody sells produce to his friend, Vizaron Velot Samchu, and he plants them and then they don't grow. Ve'afilu zera pishtan, even if it's flax seeds, eino chaya b'achar yusam. The seller is not responsible; he's not obligated. And the idea over here is that it's possible that the person bought it in order to eat the seeds. Even zera pishtan, which normally are bought in order to plant them, but it's possible to eat them. And so, therefore, the seller can always say that I actually sold you these seeds in order that you would eat them, not with the intention that you would plant them. And that's why the seller is not obligated. And the Mishnah continues, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, Zerone Gina, if you have garden seeds, She'ena Necholin, which are not eaten at all, they're only used for planting, and then they don't grow properly, so then Chaye Bachar Yusan, so then the seller is responsible in that case. And the Gemara says, Itmar, it was stated the following, Machlukas Amoroim, Hamocher Shor Lechavero. If a person sells an ox to his friend, V'nimsa Nagchon, and it turns out that it's a goring ox, and the idea over here is that the buyer is claiming he bought the ox in order to use it for plowing, and it's unusable since it's a goring ox. But the seller is claiming, I sold it to you with the intention that you would slaughter the animal and that you would eat the meat, so there's no problem that it's a nagchon. And so the question is whether the sale can be reversed or not. So that's a machlokas amoroim. Rav Amar Hareza Mekachtos. Rav says that this is a mistaken purchase, and therefore the buyer is able to give back the ox and he can get back his money. Ushmuel Amar, and Shmuel says, no, Yachol Lomar, though he can say to him, L'shchita Machartiv Lach, the seller can say to the buyer, I sold it to you in order to slaughter it, and so therefore there's no problem with this sale at all. And the Gemara continues, V'lichsi, but why don't we just see? Igavra dezavin l'nichsasa. If this is a person who normally buys to slaughter the animal, then we should assume that he bought it in order to slaughter the animal. And ilaradya, if it's a person who buys in order to plow, so laradya, so we should assume that he bought it to plow with the animal. So we should go by the general purchases that are made by this buyer. And the Gemara answers to that, Begavra dezavin lahachi ulahachi. This machlokas amoroim is talking about a buyer who buys for both purposes, so it's impossible to tell just from the buyer what he was buying for. But the Gemara continues, V'lichsi demei heichininu. Well, why don't we just see how much he paid? Isn't the amount of money, wouldn't that show us? If he's paying a little more, it means he's buying it for plowing. If he's paying a little less, then his intention was to slaughter. And the Gemara says, Lo not tzricha, it's necessary. The ayakar bisra, the machlokas amoroim here, is talking in a case where meat went up in price. V'kam b'dmei radya, and actually buying it for meat is exactly the same price as buying it for plowing. But the Gemara says, if that's the case, that it's exactly the same price, so lamai nafkamina, what difference does it make? If he would have spent the same amount of money, so he has an ox for the meat is just as valuable anyhow, he hasn't lost any money. And the Gemara says, no, nafkamina latircha, the difference is, in order to expend the effort, meaning now, if the buyer's not going to be able to reverse the sale and get back his money, he has to make the effort to actually go ahead and sell the animal and get back his money. And that's the difference over here. That's the machlokas between Rav and Shmuel. Again, Rav saying it's a mekachtos, he can just reverse the sale, but Shmuel is saying no, if he wants to get back his money, he's going to have to sell the meat. He'll have to sell the animal. But the Gemara continues, hey chidami, but still, what exactly is the case? And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tzadi Beis Amid Beis.